Billionaire CEO interviews a single dad by mistake. What he did next shocked everyone. The mistake lasted only a few seconds, but its impact would echo through hundreds of lives. In a glass tower that scraped the sky and symbolized power, wealth, and ruthless ambition, one wrong name on an interview list led to a moment no one in that building would ever forget. On a morning meant for selecting the next elite executive, a single father walked into a room never meant for him, carrying nothing but exhaustion, quiet dignity, and a heart heavy with responsibility. And the billionaire CEO sitting across from him had no idea that this encounter would dismantle everything he thought he knew about success. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the idea that one small moment can change everything, take a second right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps keep stories like this alive. The billionaire CEO, Adrian Cross, was known across industries as a legend built from steel. He had risen from modest beginnings to become the head of a global empire, but somewhere along the way, compassion had been replaced by efficiency. His days were measured in profit margins, stock movements, and strategic domination. People admired him, feared him, and speculated endlessly about how someone so powerful could remain so emotionally distant. His office reflected that cold perfection: glass walls, sharp lines, and silence broken only by the hum of the city below. That morning, Adrian was scheduled to interview candidates for a high-level operations role, individuals groomed in elite schools, polished by years of privilege. The Human Resources Department had arranged everything down to the minute, but chaos has a way of slipping through cracks, even in places built to prevent it. The man who walked in next did not fit the picture. His suit was clean but worn thin at the elbows, the kind of suit that had seen too many long days and too few replacements. His shoulders were slightly hunched, not from weakness, but from carrying a weight no the copyright could explain. His eyes held a constant alertness, as if even sitting in that chair, part of him was listening for a call from school or a babysitter. This was Daniel Reed, a single father of two, who believed he was interviewing for a mid-level logistics coordinator role advertised weeks earlier. Daniel had not planned to be here. He had almost cancelled the interview that morning when his youngest woke up with a fever. But missing one opportunity felt like a luxury he could no longer afford. Since his wife had passed away 3 years earlier after a sudden illness, life had become a careful balancing act between earning enough to survive and being present enough to parent. Every day was a calculation. Every decision carried consequences that reached far beyond himself. Adrian glanced at the copyright in front of him and felt immediate irritation. The credentials were solid but unremarkable. No elite degree, no impressive corporate lineage. He assumed HR had made a mistake but decided to proceed anyway, already prepared to end the interview quickly. What he did not expect was the quiet gravity that filled the room as Daniel sat there, hands folded, breathing slow, as if grounding himself. As the interview unfolded, something unusual began to happen. Daniel spoke not in rehearsed buzzwords, but in lived experience. He described managing supply chains while juggling night shifts, problem-solving under pressure when mistakes meant empty shelves or missed paychecks. He talked about leadership not as authority, but as responsibility, shaped by years of being the only adult his children could rely on. There was no arrogance, no performance, just truth. Adrian listened at first out of obligation, then out of curiosity, and finally with something dangerously close to respect. He found himself asking questions he hadn't planned, not about profits, but about priorities. Daniel explained how efficiency mattered because waste meant fewer resources, and how fairness mattered because people worked harder when they felt seen. Without realizing it, Adrian was hearing the language of leadership stripped of ego. What Adrian didn't know was that Daniel had almost not come that day because his bank account was overdrawn and his rent was late. That the night before, Daniel had stayed up until dawn preparing for the interview after putting his kids to bed, fighting exhaustion because hope demanded effort. He had memorized the company's mission statement not because he dreamed of climbing the corporate ladder, but because stability meant his children could sleep without fear of moving again. As the interview ended, Adrian sat in silence longer than usual. Something about Daniel's presence lingered, unsettling and grounding at the same time. It was only when his assistant later rushed in, pale with panic, that the truth emerged. The wrong candidate had been sent to the wrong room. Daniel Reed was not on Adrian Cross's interview list at all. The assistant expected anger. What she saw instead was something far more shocking. Adrian's face didn't harden, it softened. Instead of dismissing Daniel, Adrian asked for his file again. He reviewed it slowly, this time not searching for prestige, but for patterns of resilience. He saw gaps explained by caregiving, promotions earned without connections, and references that spoke not of brilliance, but of reliability. For the first time in years, Adrian realized how narrow his definition of value had become. What happened next rippled outward in ways no one could have predicted. Adrian didn't just offer Daniel a job, he created one, a role focused on operational integrity and workforce well-being, something the company desperately needed but had never prioritized. The decision stunned the executive board. Some whispered that the CEO had gone soft. Others feared it was a publicity stunt. None of them understood that this was not generosity, it was correction. Daniel accepted the offer with disbelief and gratitude so deep it frightened him. The salary meant he could finally breathe. The benefits meant healthcare without fear. The flexible structure meant he could attend school meetings without choosing between parenting and survival. But beyond all of that, it meant something far more profound. He was seen. As weeks turned into months, the impact of that mistake became undeniable. Daniel approached his role the same way he approached fatherhood, with consistency, empathy, and quiet determination. Employee turnover dropped. Productivity rose. Departments once riddled with burnout began to function with renewed purpose. People felt heard, not managed. Adrian watched all of this with a growing sense of humility. He started walking the floors again, listening instead of instructing. He began to understand that his empire had been built on the backs of people whose stories he had never bothered to learn. Daniel had not taught him something new. He had reminded him of something forgotten. Outside the company, the story leaked, not as a headline about charity, but as a quiet example of humanity piercing corporate armor. Other companies took notice. Policies shifted. Conversations changed. One single father, walking into the wrong room, had sparked a movement no strategic plan could have engineered. For Daniel, the transformation was both external and internal. His children noticed the difference before he did. He came home less exhausted. He laughed more. The house felt lighter. Stability allowed him to dream again, not of wealth, but of presence, of being there. And Adrian Cross, the billionaire CEO, found himself changed in ways money could never accomplish. He had spent decades climbing, only to realize that the highest position offered the clearest view of those below. The mistake that morning had stripped away his assumptions and replaced them with something far more powerful than control, understanding. As this story draws near its end, take a moment to pause. If this journey touched your heart even a little, if it reminded you that compassion can exist even in the most unexpected places, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement helps these stories reach the people who need them most. Before the final moments, we have a special request for you. Comment below with the word kindness if you believe one small act can change a life. Your comments matter more than you know, because in the end, this was never just a story about a billionaire or a single father. It was about the power of seeing someone for who they truly are, about how the smallest mistakes can lead to the greatest corrections, and about how kindness, when given room to exist, has the power to rewrite destinies. If this story moved you, please engage with it from your heart. Your support keeps these moments alive, and your belief keeps them possible.